Young. Well, hello everybody from Ross-Ade Stadium. It is Purdue against Syracuse to finish the non-conference schedule for 2023. The Boilermakers come in at 1-1, coming off a win last week over Virginia Tech that just ended about 10 minutes ago. So we're happy to be on the air here. Tim Newton along with Pete Quinn and Kelly Kitchell. Pete, an interesting day last week, one that kind of you enjoy going through the experience once, maybe, but we hope we never have to repeat it again.
I'll tell you what it was good for. 32 years in the booth, never experienced, no one has experienced what we experienced. And all I could think about, I had two things running through my head. Maybe it's good I am retiring after this season. And number two, when I see Kitchell, I'm going to break his jaw.
I didn't think it was that bad.
I don't think the heavy stuff's coming down for quite some time. I think
it was beautiful here. I didn't think it was bad at all.
I thought, what a game for Kitch to miss. And he made the right call, but yeah. I got home at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Went inside, unpacked, took a quick shower, packed, and left at 4 a.m. to go to a business conference in Boise, Idaho. And I can't sleep on planes, so when I went to bed the next day, I was up for 47 straight hours.
But
it was a long week.
You were happy.
We won.
There you
we
go.
won. Remember the Oregon game a few years ago?
I do.
Triple overtime. Didn't get home till like 9 in the morning on Sunday, and it hurt because we lost.
Yeah. Same thing with Nevada in 2019. Oh. That was a late night. Yeah, see, you forgot that one already.
Well, I didn't fly with the team, so
that's true. That's true.
I went golf the next day, so it helped.
Let us know, by the way, on Facebook here where you're watching. I think my daughter-in-law checked in first from Manchester, England, where it is about where it is 11:05. So hi, Olivia. We're glad to have you with us. Also, Kansas City checking in. John down in Boonville. Lance Olson, former Boilermaker standout on the first Rose Bowl team,
yes,
is watching as well. So happy to have everybody here.
Lance is a player.
Also, Grayling, Michigan, checking in as well. So let us know, and if you have any questions for us, we'll try to answer those. So Syracuse comes in at 2-0. To say their schedule's been a little light is probably a little bit kind, because they've played essentially a tube of toothpaste, Colgate, in the opener. And then Western Michigan last week, which might be the weakest team in the Mid-American Conference. So, Kitch, I'm sure they're thinking right now, are we this good, or maybe it was the competition? We're about to find out.
We're going to find out. They're going to find out real quick, because Purdue's played about the opposite of that, right? You played a really good Fresno State team. You played it, I'm not sure how good Virginia Tech is right now, but you play them in a hostile environment on the road, in a crazy environment, at that, and you have to overcome a lot of adversity just with the weather and the delay and all that. So I feel like Purdue's been much, much, much more tested, and they've got some guys that have had to overcome some things. And I've said this a lot. I was talking to Hudson Card's dad this morning, and he was in our shop, and he said, I was talking about the first game, and he was pretty down about me. I said, but sometimes things sink in a little bit more when you have a loss, a tough loss like that. If you win a game like that, things can get swept under the rug, and they don't get brought to light. When you lose, everything's more intensified, and you can fix things. So Purdue's much more tested. They've had to battle some things, so we're going to see.
Yeah, and sometimes coaches will say whatever they need to say to make sure that their team is in the right direction. Ryan Walters, Pete, has been essentially preaching the same thing. He's not sure if they had won that first game against Fresno State, they would have learned the lessons that they needed to learn. We've said all along, 11-1's not a bad season. So you don't lose. You don't lose after the first week. You're still in everything that you want to get into.
You've been hanging around Kitchell and I too long.
My East Coast pessimism has slowly
eroded over the years. When they hired Coach Walters, and I heard him address the press for the first time, I felt very strongly we had the right guy. After the first week's loss, when we lost that game, and I heard him speak, I knew we had the right guy. So everybody always asks me, are we gonna start winning at Purdue? And I said, absolutely 100% guaranteed. Don't know when.
Yeah.
But we've got talent on this football team, and I don't know if I've ever, 32 years that we've been doing this, I don't know if I've ever seen a team go from week 1 to week 2 and make improvements like they did. Now, the Joe Tiller week 1 to week 2 was amazing. Because they lose to Toledo and lost, got beat bad. Then next week beat Notre Dame. But you didn't see as much improvement from week 1 to week 2 as we saw last week. And I'm very excited about that. And I was very, very impressed and very excited that Kitch and I both played. You don't know how hard it is when you get ready emotionally, physically, mentally to play a game and then have to sit in a locker room in wet clothes for 5 hours to come back out and play at a high level. Somehow he got his kids to do that, and that was very impressive.
Kitch, last year's game against Syracuse was one that we won't forget for a long time because Purdue fell behind in that one. They were down after a pick six, 10 points early in the fourth quarter. Aiden O'Connell throws a long touchdown pass to Charlie Jones to get back in. Boilermakers force a punt. They go down and score with less than a minute to play, and you're thinking, great. And then a penalty on the extra point, an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Then the coach gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for arguing about the first one, and you're kicking off from the 10-yard line, and you find a way to get beaten 7 seconds left.
Just a complete implosion. I mean, a game that you had won that they, they had to drive it down, and all you had to do was keep your mouth shut. I mean, it was, make them drive 80 and have a chance, but they just couldn't do it, and just a complete meltdown on the team and the coaching staff too. I mean, a player losing his cool on that is one thing, but a coach can't do that, man. You can't double up on that. That was a bad deal all the way through.
Yeah.
So. And I'll tell you what, I know it's a new staff and it's a lot of new guys, but there's a lot of guys here that remember that game too.
They do.
And they're going to want to avenge that one.
We had Nick Scorton on the radio show this week on the Ryan Walters show, and he said this one's been circled for a while because that was a bitter loss last year. By the way, welcome from Kokomo, Indiana and Monrovia, Indiana. Again, let us know where you're watching. And one player that we don't have to worry about, Pete, the guy that caught that game-winning touchdown last year, Aronde Gadsden, who is the son of a former Miami Dolphins standout of the same name, is out. He was caught 6 passes last year for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner against Purdue. He's out. Their offensive line is a little bit banged up as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. On the Purdue side, we were hoping to get Gus Hartwig back. That is not going to be the case this week. He is out again this week. Also, Salim Turner-Muhammad, who has missed the first 2 games with a hamstring injury, is out as well. Having said that, and I'm going to try and knock on wood if I can find some here, for week 3 in the season, Purdue's really not in bad shape injury-wise.
No, and every team in the country has starters out. Every team in the country has kids banged up. That's what football is. It's a tough sport. So you play with the kids that are playing. I want Hartwig to get back as soon as possible because he's a real high-level player, and I think he would help our team a lot. But Purdue's got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And it's not like when Coach Walters came in here, he's rebuilding. We got a lot of kids that are going to play on Sundays, and we got a lot of good kids. And last week, I was already a fan. I became a bigger fan because of the way they competed and played. I feel really good about today.
Kitch, one player we saw a little bit last week, Garrett Miller, who missed the opener against Fresno State, but he's got a guy behind him in Max Clare that I think has got some pretty high ceiling potential here.
I'll tell you, I was so impressed with him week 1. Over the off season, he put on a ton of weight and just looked more athletic in week 1. I didn't get a chance to see him. I saw him in the spring. So even from the spring to the fall, I mean, he looked a lot bigger and stronger and faster, and he's a player. I mean, Max Clare is going to be a guy that's going to be a legit, all Big Ten type of tight end as his career moves forward. And then so when you got 2 of them, then that opens up the playbook a little bit too, where you can go with 2 tight set at some point, and you can do some things that we're not normally doing, but that gives you just more depth and more, a little more diversity up front or on the offensive side.
Noblesville checking in along with Crawfordsville and right here in Lafayette. And Mrs. Katie, good to have you along for the broadcast as well. Last year, Garrett Schrader, the starting quarterback for Syracuse, hurt the Boilermakers probably more so with his legs than with his arm, although he did throw 3 touchdown passes. The run is a big part, the quarterback run is a big part of their offense, and particularly the quarterback run off broken plays. Purdue has to be disciplined tonight in their pass rush.
All they have to do is the improvement they saw from week 1 to week 2. First of all, week 1, that quarterback, Fresno State's quarterback, just played one of the best games I've ever seen a quarterback play. And that's tough to beat. You know, that kid was running for his life and was putting the ball in the numbers. Last week, I think Purdue improved dramatically that way. We've got great guys on the edge. Sidner and Nick are 2 guys that they're going to play in the NFL. Yeah. They're going to be able to keep that quarterback in check. I want to go back just real quickly because we were talking about Max Clare and the tight end position. My tailgate. When I stop broadcasting, it's going to be because I want to stay at the tailgate. I was with Tim Stratton and Dave Young. Dave Young, my era. Tim Stratton, Kitch's era. 2 of the greatest tight ends. Throw in, who else would you put in? Payne Durham in there. You would put in Cliff Benson in there.
Yep.
But we've had some great tight ends. 2 of the all-time best are here today. And that's makes me very happy to see those guys.
And Tim Stratton is tonight's honorary captain. He was the 2000 winner of the John Mackey Award as the nation's top tight end. It was the first year that award had been given out, so it's great to see Tim back in the house. And Dave Young, who really revolutionized the way that tight ends are used. Used to be just blockers and maybe throw a short pass to him. He's a guy that could get down the field and really stretch defenses.
He was at the time he was 6'6", 260 pounds, ran a legitimate 4.55, and led the nation in receptions, not for tight ends, for all receivers. I mean, he was a one of a kind. If they had the Mackey back then, he would have won it hands down. But he's here with his son. His son even looks more athletic than he is, a couple inches taller, and he's 41 years old, still playing European basketball right now, and he's coming up the booth, so I think we're going to get caught up with him
today.
Good
deal. Let's talk Boilermaker offense a little bit. Hudson Card last week I thought showed improvement in his decision making and his ability to kind of read things on the fly, and it's nice to be able to have that triumvirate behind him now, because you've got Devin Mockabee, who, as we know, was able to close the game up. But I think Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Dylan Downing have really given this a 1-2-3 punch in the backfield.
And they all bring something that's dynamic in their own right. I mean, you know,
different.
So you get the ball in space to Dylan Mockabee, and he's almost impossible to bring down. He's so elusive. You saw it on the first touchdown run where a guy had him dead to rights, and he just makes a little move, and the guy was grabbing air, you know, and it's just, he's so dynamic. Tyrone Tracy's so fast. I mean, we saw it on the kickoff return week 1. He can bring a different element, and he's dynamic. And then Dylan Downing, he's a power guy. He's gonna run downhill. He's got a lot of speed too. So I love, and you can never have too many really good running backs, especially once you start here. You know, after this week, you got to start to get in the Big Ten. You want a stable of running backs in there that you can go to and you feel really comfortable about.
You know, I think the thing, Pete, that you really appreciate having a guy like Mockabee in the backfield, it's like having a closer in baseball. You know, if you've got a lead with 2 or 3 minutes to play, you can hand the ball off to number 45 on a 3rd and 3 play or 3rd and 5 play, or get him the ball and throwing it a short pass. He's going to get you that first down to ice the game.
I agree. I think Devin Mockabee is one of those players that you want to give him the ball a minimum of 20 carries a game. He might get a yard here, a yard there, and then all of a sudden he breaks one. And he wears defenses down. So I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's one of our greatest weapons, and I think Hudson Card's improvement from week 1 to week 2 was significant. Yeah. But I honestly believe we're not even close to seeing his potential. He's still trying to feel things out. He's still trying to learn it, but I think he's going to be very, very special.
John Amiri out of California. We hope the weather there is as good as it is here. Probably the last time tonight we'll have to talk about the weather, because we're expecting temperatures in the low 70s, maybe by the end of the game mid-60s. It's cloudy, but there is no rain in the area right now, and we don't expect it to be an issue going forward. A welcome respite from last week, I might add. Let's talk Syracuse defense. Syracuse plays a 3-3-5, but they do a lot of movement up front. As an old offensive lineman, I should say a former offensive lineman. You're the old offensive lineman. But as a former offensive lineman, how difficult is it when you guys got guys moving around at the snap or pre-snap?
It is tough. Anytime you see a 3-3 stack, that is made to put pressure. And you know what can come out of it is you can pop big plays out of it. The tough part is you never know where they're going to be. So you got to be sound in your scheme. You got to understand, especially if you're running a zone scheme, you got to trust your steps, trust your reads, where you're going. On that, and not, sometimes you see ghosts a little bit out there because all of a sudden you got a guy walking up, and then all of a sudden another guy comes here and they fill in. They can do a lot of things to try to make you unsure up front. So that's going to be a big deal. I think Hudson Card's going to have to get it out of his hand quick. They're going to have to do some RPOs, get it out, get it into space, because that stack, like I said, it can create some matchup problems, especially when they bring backers in different spots, and it can get you on the edge a little bit if you're just sitting in the pocket.
Again, Pete, you have to consider the competition so far. Colgate and Western Michigan have been the first two opponents. Syracuse comes into this game leading the nation in scoring defense. They've given up 1 touchdown in 2 games, and that was in the first minute of the Western Michigan game last week. And to me, the even more amazing thing, in those 2 games, the opponent has been in their red zone once. Only 1 team has gotten inside the 20 at one time in those 2 games.
Yeah, it's been very impressive, and you're right. You have to look at the competition. It was Colgate and Western Michigan, but no matter who you're playing, to dominate like they've been dominating, this is a very, very good, sound football team. But Purdue is by far the best team they're going to face. They're going to face on the road. There's going to be a very, very sold-out, loud crowd here today. But they've got some very good athletes. Their quarterback is a very good quarterback. They've got a stable of receivers. Last year, they kind of relied on one guy. Not this year. They're 3-4 deep on the receivers. So Purdue's going to have to earn this one. But it's one of those games that I think before the season starts every year, I always said I don't look at statistics, and I don't make any judgments until after at least 3 games. Mm-hmm. Then you kind of know what you got. You know what everybody else has. And everybody had pressed the panic button after week 1, but I wanted to wait and see what happened week 2. I was very impressed with week 2. Tonight's critical. If tonight Purdue can look good and win this football game and look good winning it, I think Purdue has a chance to have a really, really nice season. Special
teams are always a big consideration in any games, and one guy we'll be watching for Syracuse is their kicker, Brady Denneberg. Now, he's 3 for 3 in field goals, but he hasn't kicked any long ones. But the impressive thing is he has kicked off 19 times this season. 18 of the 19 have been touchbacks. The other one was fair caught. Syracuse has allowed 0 return yards in punts or kickoffs this season. So if the weather holds the way it is and we don't have a whole lot of wind, I don't expect the Boilermakers to have a lot of return chances tonight.
Yeah, they won't. They won't get anything in the kickoff game, kickoff return game. But so they're going to make you drive, right? You're going to make you drive. And what would impress me the most about the Boilermakers last week, kind of getting to our offense, and you may want to get there later, but I want to get there now, is we went 2 of 12 on third downs in week 1. Mm-hmm. Last week, what were we, 9 of 17? Is that what it was? 7
somewhere in there.
Somewhere around there. We were much closer to 50% or more on that. Huge improvement. What that did, not only was that did that extend drives, that went from us running 60 plays on offense to 90 plays on offense. So it gets you those extra, getting third down gives you an extra set of downs every time. So you're keeping the defense off the field. You're letting them rest a little bit. You're extending your drives and giving yourself a chance. So that's going to be a huge piece of having to drive 80 yards every time. Yeah. You've got to be able to convert on those third downs.
Pete, you could see the tangible proof of how important third downs were last week. Boilermakers start the game 3 for 3. They go down and score on their opening drive, and they were driving before the storm hit. Then they missed their next 8 third downs and didn't score. Mm-hmm. And then on the scoring drive that was the eventual winning touchdown, they hit all of their third down conversions.
Yeah, third down conversions is a stat that a lot of people don't pay attention to, but it's critical. It relates directly with time of possession. It's if you can win those battles. And as much as improved as the offense was on third down, defense even dramatically more improved on third down defensively. And they shut them down on third down. Another fun stat that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, again, Colgate, Western Michigan, the defense has scored more than they've given up.
Yeah, that's
defense
true.
has 2 pick sixes, 14 points, and they've only given up 7.
Yeah, the Syracuse defense has had 3 interceptions, including 2 pick sixes, 15 tackles for loss, and 7 quarterback sacks in the first 2 weeks. So again, it's a defense that has put up big numbers. And Marlowe Wax Jr. is a player we saw a lot last year, and yes. I was really impressed. He's a guy you'll see sideline to sideline out of that inside linebacker position. He's number 2, and he is going to be a handful for Purdue tonight.
Yeah, I remember the last guy we had that could really do that was Derek Barnes, where you all of a sudden you know, you think he's out of the play, and he's fast enough to get to a guy for a 6-yard gain on the other side of the field, and he's that type of player that can just gets there, right? I mean, if you have an inside middle linebacker that can just get there, it's a huge weapon.
Pete, you always look at one game at a time. We've heard that cliche for years, but you look at this homestand. Purdue starts tonight. You've got Syracuse to finish out the non-conference schedule. Next, this Friday night, you're going to play Wisconsin here. Purdue hasn't beaten Wisconsin since 2003. And then 2 weeks from today, you've got Illinois. Illinois has not looked very good in this first 3 games so far. They're 1-2 right now. And Wisconsin, although they won today, they had to get 6 turnovers from Georgia Southern to do it. You have the sense your season could really be made in this next 3-game homestand.
Yeah, our division does not look that strong, and I think Purdue has a chance to do something. And again, going back, Jeff Brom did not leave the cupboard bare. There's a lot of kids coming back. They're big-time football players. And Scorton, led by Scorton on defense, we are a good football team, and Ryan Walters and his coaching staff know it. They got the guys in the right places. They're relatively healthy. I think they're going into every game thinking they're going to win. And when you look at who the other teams in our division, you know, you can't argue that Purdue's got a legitimate chance to go back-to-back champions of our division.
Kitch, you talk about players and recruits. We've got about 50 of them here tonight. They're going to see a perfect night for football, and you have a feeling we could have an electric atmosphere tonight here in Ross-Ade Stadium.
I think so. I just looked down, and they got the lights around the P above the tunnel. There's going to be smoke coming out of there. This is what the tunnel and this is what it was built for, was a night game like this, just to have an explosion coming out of just, you know, everything coming together. And I can't wait for that. I think it's going to be just unbelievable tonight.
I would, knock on wood, I think I can I can reach it with my foot. Purdue through 2 games, Pete, no turnovers. And you don't turn the ball over, you give yourself a chance to win every week.
Yeah, you do, and that's an amazing stat. There's very few teams after 2 weeks that can say that. And what that tells me is this is a very well-coached, disciplined team, because most turnovers, it's a mental thing. A lot of turnovers are mental errors, and the fact that we've played 2 tough football games with 2 tough opponents and have not turned it over once, that tells me we got some good coaches here.
Kitch, the last few years, you had Rondale Moore, you had David Bell, you had Charlie Jones, far and away your leading receivers. Right now, Max Clare leads this team with 10 catches, but I couldn't tell you after 2 games who's going to be the leading receiver on this team at the end of the season.
Yeah, after week 1, we thought it was going to be Deion Burks, right? And he looked great. And then last week, Sheffield had a great game. You've got Clare that's coming up. Yassine, all of a sudden, he made some great clutch 3rd down catches. And so, yeah, which that's not a bad thing.
No.
It really isn't. I mean, you want a guy that you can always count on, but that also, the defense knows that you're going to a guy that you can always count on.
Right.
If you've got 4 or 5 of them that they don't know where you're going, that opens it up. And if you can count on all of them, that's a big deal.
John loves the fact that Coach Walters goes into each game with no preconceived outcomes, and I think that goes by the whole idea of you don't know who you're going to throw the ball to the most, and it really depends on what the defense is going to give you. We'll see what Syracuse does tonight. All right, you get the first pick tonight, Kitch. Give me picks to click on both sides.
Well, I think that 3rd down conversion is such a huge stat. It all starts with the quarterback. So I'm going to go with Hudson Card and making good decisions, both in the zone read or the scramble game with his legs, and also getting in the great guy's hands in stride. And like I said, there's going to be some pressure in his face. They're going to put some pressure on him just because of the scheme that they have. They may bring some more guys than we have to block. So he's going to have to make great decisions tonight. So I'm going to go with Hudson Card. And then I'm going to go with, on defense, I'm going to go with Sanusi Kane. Still, I wouldn't say he's been great, but he's been solid. The thing that I haven't seen from Sanusi this year is what I want for him is that big hit.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you hear before you know that it's him, but you hear that big hit. I think he's due for one. I think you're going to hear that tonight.
Mr. Quinn?
Scorton Mockbee.
Well,
Easy choices. We got a couple of, I think, guys are going to play on Sundays, and I'm going to go with those guys.
Okay. How about I'm going to go on offense with a guy that probably played a lot in last year's game. T.J. Sheffield has 7 catches this year, looking for his first touchdown. I'm going to say he gets that one tonight. You go Scorton, Dylan Thieneman.
Why not?
Dylan Thieneman's Purdue's leading tackler. He's already the first true freshman and program history to have an interception in each of his first 2 games. Why not go for the hat trick tonight? So we'll see. If any of those guys are, we're talking about them at the end of the game, it's probably going to be a pretty good night for Purdue.
It's going to be a good night. In big games, your stars have to have big nights.
All right, don't forget Friday night this week at Ross-Ade, 7 o'clock will be the start time of that. So we'll be on here on our Facebook Live segment at 5:30. For Kelly Kitchell, for Pete Quinn, I'm Tim Newton. Boiler up. We'll see you next week.
Hammer down.
We'll be right back.